Robbie, thank you very much for the kind words of introduction. And thank you to my other friends at Chazak and at Torah Anytime for this opportunity, for all the prior opportunities. Looking forward to future ones. And thank you for everything you do for the Jewish people. Speaking about the Jewish people, we know we have an obligation. It's a pretty straightforward one, not the easiest. You have to love your fellow Jew. Everybody's familiar with that. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And that means all of your fellow Jews, even the annoying ones. Even the ones that are your neighbors and they block your driveway, you have to love them. Even the ones that when you get on an El Al flight that you've paid a couple $1,000s for and you're in a middle seat in economy and you're figuring I should get at least one of the armrests and one Yid to one side and one Jew to the other side. They each take an armrest and now you have none. You have to love both of them. You have to love the guy that sits next to you in shul with an obvious cold or worse, maybe the flu, and is sneezing and hacking and going through a box of tissues and then leaving the tissues in front of him and in front of you. You have to love that person. And if you don't love that person, not only are you not fulfilling the obligation, the positive obligation, but you are violating a negative prohibition. There's a prohibition that says, Lo tisna es achicha bilvavecha. You can't hate a fellow Yid in your heart. Can't do that. And that's a big one. Sodom was destroyed because of that. Not just because they hated each other, but not just Sodom. We know the most recent Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, because Yidden didn't get along. You can't hate one of Hashem's children. Imagine as a parent, those of us who are parents know how painful it is when siblings, when a parent's own kids fight. So for Hashem, if one Yid is hating another, or if two are hating each other, those are his kids in a fight. You can't hate a fellow Yid. Now, the laws in the Torah are pretty straightforward. Some of them we understand. Don't murder, we understand that one. Don't steal, we understand that one. There are others, the paraduma, maybe we don't understand that one as well. Kashrus, maybe we don't understand as well. There's some that are difficult to understand, but we know the law is the law. You got to follow it. Why do you do that? Because Hashem said so. Do you understand it? Maybe. Maybe I don't. Maybe I think I understand it. Maybe I don't really understand it. Maybe there are deeper reasons. You have to do it. Then there are all these stories. Like, what's going on? Hashem is Shakespeare. Hashem says, I know laws can be boring, so I'm gonna have some stories, so that way you'll sit down and you won't be totally bored. You might be a little bored during the laws, but you'll wake up a little bit during the stories. The stories are doing the same thing that the laws are doing. The stories are teaching us how to act and how not to act. Those stories, the same way the laws will say, do this and don't do that. When you read these stories that Hashem curated, that Hashem chose which stories to put in and which not. There's some great stories that aren't in the Torah. Avram being thrown in the furnace, the Kivshan Aish, it's not in the Torah. Hashem decided which stories to put in and which details of these stories to include to teach us lessons. And so you'll see, if you pay attention, time and again, story after story, we're being told, don't hold grudges. Here's an example. One of the most beautiful hidden things in the Torah is that at the same time that Avraham is looking for a wife for his beloved son Yitzchak through a messenger, he sends his messenger Eliezer to go find a wife, Yitzchak is involved in the exact same activity. It's not so obvious. What's he doing? He's looking for a wife for his father. Why? Because Sarah, Yitzchak's mother, has passed away. And so Yitzchak is in Be'er Lachairoi. That's why when Eliezer comes back with Rivka and Yitzchak don't meet for the first time in Avram's tent or where Avram is living. They meet at Be'er Lachairoi. Why? Because Yitzchak had gone down there to bring Hagar back to remarry his father. Beautiful. Father's looking for a wife for son. Son's looking for a wife for father. Why did he go to bring Hagar back? Remember, the last time we saw Hagar, Sarah, his mother, was kicking her out of the house along with Yishmael. Now he's going to bring her back. There's a commentator that says, the reason he went down there to bring her back is because he was concerned that she was holding a grudge against his mother. Wait 1 second. First of all, his mother passed away. You have to be worried that somebody's holding a grudge against you or against one of your relatives after they've passed away? Yes, apparently you do. But hold on 1 second. Holding a grudge? When Avram was wondering what to do, he didn't want to kick out his wife, his second wife Hagar, and his son Yishmael. Hashem told him, listen to Sarah. So what's Yitzchak worried about? So what if Hagar is holding a grudge? Hashem said it was the right thing to do. That's a pretty good hechsher. Imagine you go to a restaurant, hey, what's the supervision? Oh, it's under God. Well, God? Yeah, well, who's the Rav HaMachshir? Like, who gives the hechsher? No, actually, God. God's the Mashkiach Tamidi. He gives the hechsher. I don't know about you. I would eat there. I would trust God's hechsher. God said, listen to your wife. And yet Yitzchak's still worried. Yeah, but she's still holding a grudge, right or wrong. I got to go take care of it. So he shows up to bring her back. There's only one problem with that. What's he thinking? Who's the worst possible person to go? I would say he should have sent any messenger on the planet. Him? He's the guy that caused her to get thrown out. The reason that Sarah told Avram she had to kick Hagar and Yishmael out was because Yishmael, Hagar's son, was a danger to Yitzchak. So Yitzchak himself is going to show up. Remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Why is he going himself? Do what your father did. Send a messenger. So I want to make a suggestion. Maybe this is why he's going himself. Because the whole purpose of his visit is to make sure she no longer holds a grudge. We know that when Rivka first laid eyes on Yitzchak, she fell off of the camel she was riding on. She sees this figure, he's davening, and he is majestic. He's angelic. He's as close to an angel that a human can be in human form. He's a human, but she can't believe what she's seeing. She falls off the camel, and she's stammering, stuttering, saying to Eliezer, who is that? And he says back to her, I imagine with a big smile, that's your new husband. That's the reaction from seeing Yitzchak. So maybe Yitzchak goes himself so that when he knocks on the tent, I don't know how you gain access to a tent, clears his throat outside her tent, and Hagar says, who's there? And he says, it's Yitzchak. And now right away, like, oh, Yitzchak, the nerve of him showing up, and opens the tent and sees this malach in human form, sees Yitzchak. And now in one moment it crystallizes. I didn't realize what was going on. Now I understand. That's what your mother was doing. That's why she had to throw me and my son out. I know my son was a troublemaker, but I didn't realize that she was trying to create somebody like you. And so maybe in an instant, she doesn't just get over the grudge because she's being brought back to Abraham. She's brought back to Abraham by this guy who she now realizes, yeah, my son was a bad influence. And maybe that's why. At the very end, the last mention of her, we're told in the Torah, the Elah told us Yishmael, these are the generations of Yishmael, Ben Avram, the son of Avram, Asher Yadar Hagar HaMitzras, whom Hagar, the Egyptian, Shifchas Sarah, the maidservant of Sarah, LaAvram, that she bore to Abraham. You'd think that Hagar would be screaming, this is my epitaph, this is my tombstone, this is how you're describing me. After she threw me out, I don't want to be described as Shifchas Sarah, the maidservant of Sarah. Yeah, I want to be described as the wife of Avram. No. Maybe he succeeded so beautifully in uprooting the grudge, he said, put it in the Torah. I understand what she did. It took me years to understand, but now I understand. Put me down as Shifchas Sarah. Get over that grudge. Now you may say, and it would be a fair reaction, hold on a second. Yes, Yitzchak did a great job. He got rid of the grudge, but he wasn't the one holding the grudge. That's relatively easy. Two guys are in a fight, you're asked, it's not an easy thing to do, believe me, but it's not as difficult as giving up your own grudge. He wasn't in the fight. He didn't hold the grudge. He was the peacemaker. Like Aaron would go to each person, they were in a fight, hey, that other guy's looking for you to apologize, really? Then he'd run to the other person, that guy's looking for you to apologize, really? And then he'd make shalom. He wasn't holding a grudge himself. How do you know that you have to get over your own grudge? So here's how I know. Another story. Moshe has a problem because Korach is rebelling against him. And Korach is upset. Hey, I'm also from Levi. And, maybe I should have been the leader. Maybe I should have been the Kohen Gadol. Why not me? And Korach, not surprisingly, gets joined by these two fellows named Dasan and Aviram. Dasan and Aviram are very, very familiar to Moshe because Dasan and Aviram have been a thorn in his side for a long time. They're the guys that were fighting, that he got involved and they told on him. They're the ones that started up with him when he went to when he came back, when he went to Paro and they complained. They were the guys who didn't join the Yidden initially when they crossed the Yam Suf. Over and over and over again, constant thorns in his side. You'd think that Moshe would take one look at the situation and say, oh, Dasan and Aviram's joining and the earth's going to swallow them up? Yep, I feel really bad for those guys. That's not what he does. He sends out a delegation to appease them. Rashi says on the spot, this is mind-boggling. He says, Mikan she'in machzikin b'machlokas. From here we learn you don't continue an argument. Shahaya Moshe machazer acharayim, because Moshe went after them. He sent the delegation. Lahashlimam b'divrei shalom, to send them words of peace, to appease them. From here we learn you don't keep up a machlokas. I would have thought somebody who is my antagonist, my nemesis, and they do something against me, and I don't say a word. Okay, I'm not keeping up the machlokas. Takes two to tango. I'm just not going to say a word. Rashi is saying that's not enough. When you're in a fight with somebody, it's not enough to take the high road and say, I'm not going to respond. You have to go out with words of shalom, even if it's somebody who antagonized you. You're Moshe, who could be more right than Moshe. They're Dasan and Aviram, who could be more wrong. So how was he able to do that? And he didn't just do that, by the way. They responded to the delegation with a disgusting, outrageous response. You'd think again, okay, now he could give it a rest. He tried. No, he then goes himself with a delegation of elders and tries again. Maybe because he put himself in their shoes, as follows. Let's go backwards, okay? There was an incident where Hashem told Moshe, okay, I'm going to give you some help here. We're going to appoint 70 elders. Moshe was pretty good at math. It's not that complicated. 12 tribes, 6 times 12. If you take 6 from each tribe, is 72. That's a bit of a problem because I only have 70 spots. So what does he do? He makes a gyro. He makes a lottery, okay? Like every Rebbe, who's raffling something off, to try to do a prize for their class. And in the gyro, whoever, is going to draw the blank one, they're going to be the 2 people that aren't included. And surprisingly, according to some, Eldad and Medad, who do become prophets, they do become leaders, they didn't even show up. They figured it's not going to be us. And it turns out that it's them, which means there are 2 other guys who, they were in it, but they didn't get it. So who are those 2 other guys? So I was thinking once, maybe it was Dustin and Aviram. They were the 2 guys that didn't get chosen. And I spoke to my Rav about this, and he said, you have to understand something, okay? Who were these people chosen from? They were chosen from former Shotrim. Those were the officers that took beatings on behalf of the Jewish people. Dustin and Aviram were 2 of the Shotrim. But there were many, many, many Shotrim appointed over the Jewish people. Thousands and thousands of Shotrim. There is no way that those 2 rascals were possibly in the running. There's no way they were in the running. But now put yourself in their shoes. After the Meraglim, after the spies came back, and 2 of them, Kalev and Yeshua, had a good report, and the other 10 had a bad report, and the males among Klai Yisrael, just want to point that out, we sinned, you all didn't on that side of the Mechitza, Kol HaKavod, you weren't involved in the Ego, you weren't involved in Meraglim, it was us, it's always the men, we get it, we're always wrong, we understand that, we're used to it. So the men believed the bad report. And then afterwards, the Yidden said, you know what, let's elect a new leader. According to the Medrash, they elected a new leader. You know who Klai Yisrael elected as their new leader? 2 people to serve together, Dustin and Aviram. So now you're Dustin and Aviram. And now Moshe is rounding up 6 people from each tribe. In order to be in the running, you have to be one of the former Shotrim, one of the former officers. And you're not even in the running? Are you kidding me? Klai Yisrael just elected us as the next leaders, and he doesn't even put us in the running? You can understand why they'd have a kapeda. Now, they're wrong. They don't deserve to be in the running. But from their perspective, imagine the level of embarrassment. So Moshe puts himself into their shoes. I'm going to send a delegation out. I'm not going to stay quiet. They respond disgustingly. I'm going to go myself. This is Moshe. He's the din of a king. Goes himself after the disgusting response because he put himself in their shoes. He was Dan L'Chavschos. Now you'll say to me, okay, all right, I get it. I'm going to fight. And maybe I'm not quite as perfect as Moshe. And maybe the other side isn't as bad as Dustin and Aviram, although when you're in a fight, you generally think that the other side is worse than anybody. But you see, there, you just explained it. Moshe was able to be Dan L'Chavschos. So maybe that's why he had to go. Because he was Dan L'Chavschos, so he understood where they were coming from. What if there's no way to understand where they're coming from? There's no Dan L'Chavschos. So here's the next story. Rashi tells us in Parshas Pinchas, quotes a Medrash, that the chatas that we bring on Rosh Chodesh, or that we used to bring on Rosh Chodesh, hopefully someday soon we'll rebuild the base of Mikdash and be brought again. The reason it's brought is because Hashem asks us to bring it on his behalf to atone for him for having shrunk the size of the moon. Hold on a second. We're bringing a chatas for Hashem to atone for something Hashem did. Hashem can't do anything wrong. The moon complained. What was the moon's complaint? Hashem created the sun and the moon, and originally they're the same size. And the moon said, we can't have 2 leaders. And Hashem said, okay, well in that case, shrink yourself, right? What was the moon's problem? The moon thought he's a leader. You're not a leader. It's like a child, like not realizing, well, we can't have, I can't have 2 parents. It depends on what the role is. The moon wasn't a leader. The moon, like the sun, was a servant. A king can have 2 coextensive, co-equal, same-sized servants. Leaders, maybe one has to be bigger than the other. So the moon was completely wrong, 100% wrong. Hashem was 100% right, and yet Hashem says, bring a chatas for me to atone for having made the moon smaller. Even if there's no way to be Dan L'Chavschos, there's nothing to do. You got the receipts. You got the obnoxious text. You got you have everything you need to know. You confirmed it. It wasn't just a rumor. The person that did this to you, they did it. They embarrassed you. Whatever it was they did to you, they hit you, they punched you, they insulted you, and they were 1,000% wrong. Forgive, forget, work it out. That's what we're being told. And if we don't do that, I want to show you what can happen. I have, I'm blessed, thank God, I have my youngest children are twin boys. And I've seen this time and again, particularly when they were younger, but to this day, they get into a big fight. Siblings, unfortunately, like I talked about before, it's painful to parent, but siblings can fight. And boys can fight, girls can fight, especially the same age or the same size, so it's a pretty even match, okay? They would fight. And they get into a fight, and then 10 minutes later, I'd walk into our den. In our den, we have something that's called a love seat. It's basically the size of for like 1.5 people, okay? Like a person could sit in it very comfortably. It's not really big enough for 2 people. The 2 of them would be sitting on the love seat next to each other, both reading. And I walk in the room saying, wait, what weren't you guys in a fight? And they look up like, oh yeah, but what do you mean? That was 10 minutes ago, we made up, okay? I wonder sometimes maybe twins are in the world to teach us. That's what happens. That's how you should be. You get into a fight, you work it out, and that's it. And you just forget about it, okay? Let's talk about twins. So, I've said this before, and people have said to me, you're crazy. I may be crazy, but you're not going to prove it through this. Esav had affection for Yaakov. I said, what are you talking about? Everyone knows Esav's son is Yaakov. I'm going to prove it to you. After Yaakov takes the brachos, and Yaakov's mother tells him, you got to get out of here, okay? He's going to kill you. This is how Rashi explains it, okay? He says, V'temer elav hine Esav achicha nichem al ha'achva. Esav regrets the affection, the closeness that he had for you. Lachshov machshava acheres. He's thinking another thought. Lehisnaker. He's going to distance himself from you, and then he's going to kill you. Let's just think about it for a second, okay? When they were twins, when they were 10 years old, before Yaakov went off to go learn full-time after bar mitzvah, and Esav went out to kill, pillage, etc., full-time after bar mitzvah, when they were 10 years old, the night before a test, you don't think Esav would go over to Yaakov and say, you got to help me out, I didn't study. You think Yaakov didn't help him out, and give him the answers? You think at recess, if anybody ever bullied Yaakov, you don't think that 5 minutes later, Esav was wiping the pavement with that other guy? They were twin boys. It's the closest relationship you can have among siblings. So there was some achva, such that Esav had to distance himself in order to kill him. So now what does he do? He sends Eliphaz out to kill him, okay? And Eliphaz, we know, is not successful. Why? Because he shows up, he says to Yaakov, my father said I have to kill you. And in Esav's family, they take kibbutz very seriously. Yaakov has a whole, sugya. He goes through learning the Gemara with him. If somebody's poor, it's as if they're dead. Take all my money. That'll be as if you killed me. Then he can go back and tell your father you killed me. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Gives him all his money. Great. Reports back to his father. I killed him. Okay? Wonderful. Isn't it interesting that when Esav went to kill Yaakov, Esav, the greatest warrior ever, he sent one guy? Remember, later on when they meet, Esav's got 400 men with him, hundreds of men with him. He sent one guy. And by the way, the greatest hunter ever, can I have some confirmation of the kill? Do you have something, his clothing, the brothers they brought back to fake Yosef's death? They brought back a coat. You have something, his ring, his cloak, his staff, something? Nope. Happened to send one guy, didn't confirm the kill, because he hadn't done the kill. And why was Yaakov able to sit down with him in the first place? Why didn't Eliphaz just show up or, shoot an arrow at him from behind, kill him? That was his job, to kill him. Because Eliphaz happens to be the guy who used to sit on Yitzchak's lap and learn Torah from him. And so it's just a coincidence, I suppose, that Esav, Yaakov's twin brother, who had affection for him, had to distance himself, chooses one guy. The one guy who's got some kind of connection to Yadas. The one guy who can be persuaded not to kill him. And doesn't confirm the kill, maybe that came from some place, maybe a subconscious place of mercy because they were twins. Okay. Esav has a son. His son's name is Eliphaz. Eliphaz marries a woman named Timnah. The Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that Timnah tried to convert. She wanted to join the Jewish people. But the Avos said no, they rejected her. So she became a concubine to Eliphaz. She said, Mutav tehe shifcha la'umazu, better for me to be a maidservant to this nation, v'lo te gvira la'uma acheres, rather than being, she was a daughter of a chieftain, rather than being a noble woman from another nation. She wanted so badly to be part of the Jewish people that she became a concubine to Eliphaz, because even though he wasn't Jewish, he was connected to the Jewish people, obviously came from the same roots. That's how badly she wanted to be from the Jewish people. So now Eliphaz, who had saved Yaakov, the Bechir, the Avos, thereby saving the Jewish people. If there's no Yaakov, there's no Shiftei Kal, there's no Jewish people. Eliphaz and Timnah have a son. So Eliphaz, the father, is the guy who saved the Jewish people. Timnah, this little boy's mother, is the one who wanted to join the Jewish people, and the Avos, the patriarchs, including Yaakov, whom his father saved, wouldn't let her in. Obviously, there's a reason why they wouldn't let her in, but they wouldn't let her in. So here's a kid. My dad saved the Jewish people. My mom wanted to join the Jewish people, and they wouldn't allow her. Do you think it's possible, maybe, that that kid's going to grow up with a bit of a grudge against the Jewish people? You know who that kid was? That kid was Amalek. When we first see him, he attacks us. Like, what? I'm sorry, have we met? What is going on? What is going on? You don't hate somebody for no reason. What's going on, perhaps, is that he had this grudge. I'm not criticizing the others. They had their reasons. But you could see what can happen. A grudge, if it's not taken care of, can turn into something that can absolutely destroy. And that's what we have to avoid. We just laid this in Devarim. Moshe, in his goodbye speech, the book of Devarim is Moshe's goodbye. It should be studied across the world for its oral advocacy. Forget all that's buried into it and all that we can get from it, just as the way he inspires and he educates and he prods in the right way, perfectly calibrating all of his words for the desired effect before he takes leave of the Jewish people. So in the beginning of Devarim, which we just read over Shabbos, he goes through different places where the Yidden had stopped, and Rashi points out what the implied message is. So one of them is v'chatzeros. The point that he's trying to make is that the Yidden should have learned the lesson from what happened to Miriam. Miriam spoke Lashon Hara, and she got saras. And the Yidden should have learned the lesson, you don't speak Lashon Hara. But they did not learn that lesson, and they spoke Lashon Hara. They didn't learn the lesson from Miriam, okay? Listen to Rashi quoting Moshe's Lashon. Amar lahem, haya lachem lilmod. Moshe's saying to the Yidden, you should have learned mima she'asisi laMiriam, from what I did to Miriam, bechatzeros and chatzeros. What do you mean from what I did? The last time I checked, what had happened was Miriam said something bad about Moshe, or she said something negative about Moshe. She wondered aloud to Abraham after she found out that Moshe had separated from his wife. Well, what's going on? We're prophets. We didn't separate from our spouse. Remember, this is Miriam. She holds, you do not separate from your spouse. She convinced her father years earlier to get back together with mom. You don't separate from your spouse. And so she raised that with Aaron. But that was negative about Moshe. So she got saras. So why is Moshe saying, in Rashi's words, remember what you didn't learn from what I did to Miriam? Moshe didn't do anything to Miriam. Hashem did that to Miriam. Hashem gave Miriam saras. Moshe didn't give Miriam saras. Saras isn't a physical thing. He didn't scratch her, her arm or something to give her this physical malady. Saras is a spiritual consequence that manifests itself in a physical way. Hashem gave her saras. Why is Moshe saying from what I did? Because Moshe is teaching us this very important, frankly scary lesson, that if somebody irks you, irritates you, aggravates you, insults you, hits you, dishonors you, and you hold a grudge, they can get punished because of that. Moshe felt that even if it was a momentary flicker, like being in the room, he's only human, having someone say something negative about you, to which he can't respond, by the way, Hashem has to come in and respond. Hashem has to say to Miriam, he's different than you. He's not like any other prophet. Any other prophet, I speak in dreams and riddles. I speak to him face to face, right? What was Moshe going to say to Miriam? Miriam, do you not realize who I am? I mean, come on, haven't you seen those times when people come and they ask me a question and I say, wait right here, I'm going to go to my tent and talk to God, get an answer and come right back. You never saw me do that trick? I mean, I have a red phone. It goes right up to heaven. I mean, I'm not like anybody else. He's the Anav Mikol Adam. He's not going to defend himself. Hashem has to come down and defend him. And yet he's feeling that because maybe a momentary flicker, a grudge, a kapeda that happens to her, he says, what I did to her. And I'll show you how this works. Before we go to sleep at night, we say a tefillah. I feel bad because I came in and, while Rabbi Rahimi was talking about how you have to get that sefer and you should, and learn it, and you should, and you'll get Yeshua's, and Mirza Hashem, you will. So I hate to give more homework, but I'm going to give a little bit more homework, okay? It only takes a few seconds. If you're not already saying it, you have to start saying this. And if you're already saying it, you're not paying attention to what you're saying, you need to pay attention to what you're saying. while you're saying this is one of the prayers I think it's critically important. I'm not saying it won't work if you don't know it, but this one, you really should know what you're saying before we go to sleep every single night when we say Hamapil. We say the following prayer. We say, Rabbanu Shalom, Hashem. Hareini mochel, I hereby forgive. L'chol mi shehichis v'hikdid osi. Anybody who angered or upset me. O shechata kenegdi, or who sinned against me. Bein begufi, whether it was my body. Bein b'moni, whether it was my money. Bein b'chvodi, whether it was my honor. Bein b'cholashili, or anything that belongs to me, any of my possessions. Bein ba'ones, it wasn't their fault. Bein b'ratzon, they did it willfully. Bein b'shogeg, they did it negligently. Bein b'mezid, they did it intentionally. Freeze the frame here. You're announcing to God, I hereby forgive anybody who angered, humiliated, hit me, struck me, impaired my honor intentionally. Bein b'dibor, whether it was with words. Bein b'maisa, with actions. Bein b'machshava, with thoughts. Bein b'hira, also a type of thought. Bein b'gilgol zeh, in this incarnation. Bein b'gilgol acher, maybe we had a prior incarnation. That's how far we're going. L'chol bar Yisrael, every yid. We're forgiving every yid for anything they did to me ever in this world, in a prior world, if I was in a prior incarnate. And then we add, V'lo ye'anish shum adam b'sibasi. God, don't punish any person because of me. We're recognizing that if I don't forgive and somebody else did something to me intentionally, somebody walked up to me earlier today and punched me in the face. And they meant to punch me. They didn't say afterwards, oh, I'm so sorry, I meant to hit the guy behind you. No, they meant to punch me. They stood over me afterwards. I was on the floor saying, ha, 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 hope you like that one. How about them apples, right? It was very clear. They did it intentionally. I'm forgiving them, and I'm begging Hashem, don't punish them because of me. That's how powerful this is. That's how important it is to get over grudges. The manna fell from Shemayim all day, every day, not all day, every day while we were in the Midbar, 40 years, just shy of 40 years. There was one day when it didn't fall. The day of Korah's rebellion, it didn't fall. Because Hashem was not going to go feed us miraculously on a day where there was machlokas. The Slonim Rebbe says, first base of Mikdash was destroyed because of the 3 cardinal sins. We know what they were, right? It's murder, adultery, idolatry. So that means you had murderers walking around, you had idolaters walking around, you had adulterers walking around, then, it's a terrible thing. The base of Mikdash gets destroyed. It was rebuilt pretty quickly, 70 years later. The second base of Mikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, has not yet been rebuilt. I get it. I mean, we didn't get along, but that's worse than murder and idolatry and adultery. Yeah, because in general, during the first base of Mikdash, notwithstanding those 3 terrible sins, they got along. They generally got along. In the second one, even though we weren't committing those most horrible cardinal sins, we didn't get along, and that's why it's not being built. And the Chachamim say that in every generation where the base of Mikdash is not rebuilt, it's as if we destroyed it. So it's not enough for us to walk away and say, okay, look, I tried, I did this, and I did this, and I gave some tzedakah, and I did some learning, like I tried my best. Okay, so it wasn't rebuilt. No, it wasn't rebuilt. We destroyed it. If it's not rebuilt during our generation, we destroyed it. And why did we destroy it? Because why wasn't it rebuilt? Because we didn't get along, because we held on to grudges. And if you're able to get over this, if you're able to work through this, if you're able to think about, probably my guess is, some more than others, but my guess is each one of us, you go through the room, probably has some kind of grudge, a small grudge, a medium grudge, a big grudge. If you're able to get through that, you could stand on Yom Kippur, and now you got, I'm told, a friend told me a new Superman movie is out, you can have an S on your chest with a red cape and fly through the air. You stand there on Yom Kippur and say, Hashem, you know how tough it was. You know what the person did to me. You know they were 100% wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I was 100% right. And yet I forgave them. And now I'm asking you, I'm only flesh and blood. I'm asking you to forgive me. You will have supercharged your tefillas on Yom Kippur. Let's all do that. Let's rebuild the base of Mikdash. Be well.